All right, so I will go ahead and kick this off. For those who were able to join, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with us this morning to learn about the resolution passed by the Chicago City Council, which makes stellate ganglion block treatment available to all city employees through FlexPay. For those unable to join, this is being recorded, and so we will provide it to any media outlet that has requested that due to their inability to attend this morning. My name is KB, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Stella. If you're unfamiliar with us, we are an interventional psychiatry practice that's dedicated to delivering the most effective mental health protocols out there for anxiety, depression, emotional trauma, stress, traumatic brain injury, and post-traumatic stress injury. Our board-certified medical and mental health experts combine biology, psychology, and psychiatry to address the complex needs of our patients. We've treated over 9,500 patients across 20 different locations, including our centers of excellence in DC, New York, Boston, San Diego, Irvine, California, San Diego, California, Oak Park, Illinois, and our flagship in Westmont. Today, we'll provide you with some additional information about the origins of this resolution, explain what stellate ganglion block treatment is, and discuss how individuals can benefit from it. You will also hear from the alderman who's led this initiative to make SGB accessible, from experts from Stella who will explain the treatment significance, a Chicago first responder and veteran who's received SGB treatment, and a local businessman and philanthropist who's been raising funds to cover treatment costs for first responders and veterans. Following our speakers, we'll have a brief Q&A where we can answer any questions that you may have. So let me start by introducing Anthony Napolitano, alderman for Chicago's 41st Ward.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'd just like to start off really quick and just say it's more of an honor just to be a part of this. I really, really, truly appreciate being able to be brought in and just kind of being used as a sounding board of how we can introduce this to the city of Chicago. I don't think I would actually have that opportunity if it wasn't for my good friend, Melinda Linas, who's also on this call as well. She is just an absolutely huge part of this. And when she brought it to me and introduced me to Dr. Lipov and how this procedure works, I knew I had to be a part of it from that very first conversation. Myself, I'm a former Chicago police officer for 5 years and a Chicago firefighter for a little over 10 years before I took this role as alderman. So I have a lot of brothers and sisters on both the police and fire that have suffered from a lot of these symptoms, as well as myself and things that I've seen over those 15 years. And as well as we both, Melinda and I both have a lot of military friends and family who we knew that they could benefit from these procedures right off the bat. I've done my research on it too. I started researching Dr. Lipov, looking at stuff online that I found, as well as information that he gave me and Melinda gave me. And then I started talking with my union, the local firefighters, the local 2 union, as well as my brothers and sisters with with FOP, Lodge 7. And I found out that there's this wide array of officers that are already using these techniques, using this procedure that Stella offers. And it's working. It's working instantly, and it's just changed their life overnight. And I'm so happy to be a part of it. I knew that City Council had to be a part of this. Our goal initially was to get this into the insurance portion of our City of Chicago insurance. That's still our goal. We're still striving towards that. But in the interim period of time, just to get help out there immediately, we found out that we can get this put into the flex pay program is where it's at right now, making sure that all city workers, not just police and fire, can add this to their flex pay program and get this treatment instantly. And our goal right now is to push this out to all those individuals in the city of Chicago that aren't a part of flex pay right now to get into that program and to utilize it. I think this can help a lot of people. I'm being pushed by Melinda, my good friend, as well as Dr. Lipov to do the procedure myself, because I do know that I could use it. It could help some things that I have as well. I'm just a little bit I'm not as tough as they are. And I've been told by everybody it's easy as 1, 2, 3. I just have other phobias that I've been a little bit traumatic with over my life. I have to get over. But this is the wave of the future. We can help a lot of people. We could save a lot of lives. I know this can help. I've lost a lot of friends to suicide, and I just recently, over the last couple of years back, I lost my nephew to a Marine from in the Marines. He had taken his own life as well. And I wish I could have got to him sooner. And I'm hoping that we can get to everybody from this point on, and start saving some lives. I just want to say to all of you, thank you for letting me be a part of this. This means more to me pretty much than anything that I've done in my entire life.
Thank you. Thank you for the words.
Thank you.
Of course. Next up, we have Dr. Eugene Lipov, co-founder and chief medical officer at Stella, an early pioneer of the stellate ganglion block for PTSD, who can explain the purpose of stellate ganglion block.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming, of course, and especially Alderman. He and I fought, I think, an excellent fight with the commander's help. It only took 3 years, but we finally got there. So I have had absolute pleasure and honor to take care of a lot of police personnel, firemen, special forces, army personnel. So it seems to work across the board, which is really pretty amazing. So part of the reason I'm so passionate about it, I've been in Chicago since 1972. My mother took my life, her life, and part of my life with her. And then that's what I've been a huge proponent, trying to come up with better therapeutics available. And as Alderman says, once you see that, it becomes very personal to you. It becomes a mission. So I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm an anesthesiologist. In fact, at one point, I wanted to call Stellate Ganglion Block Chicago Block because this is where it was developed. The first paper came out in 2008. And so far, I've treated a number of patients. I've had my treatment. So Alderman, if you want to see me having it done, feel free. I will be happy to send it to you. But the cool thing about stellate ganglion block, it's a procedure that's been done since 1926. We know it's a safe procedure if it's done correctly. We use ultrasound guidance, and we can target fight and flight nerves. So what happens in trauma is fight and flight nerves get overactivated and get stuck in that position. As long as it persists, people have symptoms of PTSD, anxiety, depression, and suicidal thinking. So it turns out when you put local anesthetic onto the ganglion, which is in the neck, it seems to reset that whole thing in approximately 5 to 10 minutes. We've treated people who were injured in Vietnam, and they still had a tremendous response. So this amount of time doesn't seem to make a difference, which is pretty great, I think. And I think it affects many things. It affects trauma, affects many things in life. Anxiety, it's hard to sleep, it affects relationships, it affects alcohol use, it affects all of that. So what we're also in Stella, what we're trying to do is make it available, especially to people who protect us, being firemen and policemen. We're also very interested in changing the name PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, to PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury, meaning it's biological. So you can actually see PTSD in a brain scan. When somebody says it's an invisible wound, I would say you have the wrong scanner. So you can think of PTSD just like a broken leg. Someone has a broken leg, you take an x-ray, you put a cast on, everything's fine. The same thing theoretically can be done for PTSD. In fact, there's a study being done in NYU using advanced scanners to show PTSD is like before and after the block. So I truly believe this can be life-changing and life-saving. There's a paper just recently came out, which KB will make available, that after stellate ganglion block, we looked at about 200 patients or more who were suicidal. We reduced the suicide tendencies by about 40 to 50%, which you think that it's a big deal because it's quick. When somebody's suicidal, you don't keep taking medications and wait a long time. I think the speed, the tolerance, which is that separates in many ways. The other thing we have at Stella, which is pretty amazing, we have an amazing crew of psychiatric nurse practitioners who do an assessment, which is very accurate, and I think it helps us, and we do the follow-up as well. So we will keep the numbers, and hopefully it shows what we've been seeing for years now.
Thank you, Dr. Lipov.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Karen DeCocker, or Dr. Karen DeCocker, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner and vice president of clinical services at Stella.
Thank you so much for having me join. Just to kind of build on what Dr. Lipov has said, he's the man who provides the procedure, but at Stella, we're very committed to making sure that we're looking at the entire picture and making sure that when we're offering procedures to patients that, like the stellate ganglion block, that we are making sure that the person is appropriate as well followed and supported throughout that process. So I lead a team of mental health professionals who provide a psychiatric screening, medical screening, kind of biosocial screening prior to any procedure that we offer, including the stellate ganglion block, making sure that it's safe and would be effective for any individual who is seeking that treatment. And really kind of deciding with them what would be most beneficial. In many of our first responders, that does lead to stellate ganglion block, but we also offer other modalities that maybe would be a better fit for some patients that need, other support services. We're not just a one, option company. And so what we want to do is make sure that when we provide treatment, that it's the appropriate treatment for anybody that we have come through our doors. The stellate ganglion block, it's funny that Dr. Lipov kind of gave you a little bit of grief about not having the procedure yourself. I came to Stella after working at Rush and working in a veterans program where I was seeing their lives changed by the stellate ganglion block. I became very curious. I didn't know much about it and actually had the procedure myself. And after that, I was very interested in working more closely with what was happening in the mental health field as far as interventional psychiatric options that are different than just the medication options that we've been using for many, many years and are not always successful for everybody. So our goal is to really open up options for people and realizing that not all options work for this, the same people, and it's not a one fix for everyone. But this is huge steps forward and kind of where I believe psychiatry and mental health care is really heading. And so it's really exciting to see that the city is, seeing that and is progressing along with the advances in our knowledge and our treatment options. It is just a 2-minute procedure, 3 minutes, and it's quick, easy, very effective. And as Dr. Lipov said, all we're doing is using a bit of anesthetic to decrease the activity in that sympathetic nervous system and decrease the kind of overactivity that leads to those, debilitating symptoms of anxiety, restlessness, sleep, agitation, irritation, and suicidality. Our goal is to get people back to a healthy state and then support them as they move into other traditional treatments such as therapy and being able to process what's happened to them. Because without treatment, many people are not able to sustain therapy and do the work and get better. With this, we're just getting them started, getting them on their way, and letting the healing work begin.
Thank you. Next, we are honored to introduce Melinda Linas, Commander, Chief Police Department, 14th District.
Hi, I'm Melinda Linas, Commander with the Chicago Police Department. First of all, thank you to the Alderman for giving me this platform within the city to keep this conversation about mental health going. And my goal is to erase the stigma around trauma and our mental health. And it's conversations like this that we need to keep going. And, to be part of this team with Dr. Lipov, with Mark Doyle and Alderman, it's thank you very much for this opportunity. But mostly I have to thank the officers that trust me with sharing their struggles with me, and that they were willing to share their stories publicly too, because without them, this probably would not have gotten to where we are today. So I was a lieutenant in the Army National Guard and Reserves. I'm a lawyer. I have been with the Chicago Police Department for nearly 25 years. I am a mother, a wife. I am a breast cancer survivor. The last several years for me have been quite stressful. you know, I learned about this shot about 3 years ago from Mark Doyle, my friend. He saw what I was dealing with some of the officers within my unit after dealing with the pandemic and some civil unrest. And my officers were responding to the most violent areas of the city and were being injured, were being shot, were being shot at. And after having conversations with Mark, he said, you know, there's some alternative treatments out there to trauma that maybe you should look into. You know, one in particular is this shot. And I was very interested because it sounded too good to be true. And then we continued to talk about it over the next few months. And then in August of 2021, my unit suffered a critical incident where one of our officers was shot and killed. Her partner was left catastrophically injured. And then the third partner is left to deal with the situation that he witnessed. And at that point, I realized I had to do something for these officers in the unit. And I didn't know what to do because I was trying to process so many things. You know, I had recently, you know, battled breast cancer, lost my best friend to the same cancer that I had. You know, then the pandemic, civil unrest, now this. And somebody pulled me aside and said, you know what, I think you should go talk to our professional counseling services. So we're lucky within the Chicago Police Department, we have a robust professional counseling section with licensed clinicians that we could go see anonymously. And I went and it was helpful, but I felt like I needed a little bit more just to break through with her. And that's when Mark and Dr. Lipov said, all right, come on, let's get an appointment. And it changed my life. That was September of 2021. And literally leaving the doctor's office, I had this renewed sense of calm that I had not felt in years. There was this clarity to deal with things, to cope with things. And I was all of a sudden present in life. And I saw colors that I hadn't seen in a long time. It was beautiful. Like, you know, the sun was shining. It wasn't a gray cloud anymore. And I thought, well, this was easy. This was nice. So I shared it with some of my officers, especially the ones that I knew were combat veterans as well. And a couple of them got it and said, wow, this is something. And it really just opened the door to talk about these alternative treatments that are out there that not all of us are aware of. And that's where I'm going with this, is we have to keep this conversation going to know that there are resources out there aside from, say, medication or, you know, something that you could supplement regular therapy with, because it's life-changing and it's wonderful.
Thank you so much, Melinda, for sharing your experience. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce Mark Doyle, a Chicago businessman and founder of Rags of Honor nonprofit.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Anthony. Amazing that you spearheaded this and just never gave up on it. So Rags of Honor is a company I started when I got back from Afghanistan about 10 years ago as a civilian. And our mission is to hire homeless and at-risk veterans. And we have an apparel company here, and we have a coffee company called Veteran Roasters. But we have a nonprofit that sits above the top of it to help with the transition. And I met Dr. Lipov many years ago, almost by accident. And when we learned about this procedure, there were people working for us who had endured amazing hardship. And so two of the people who worked for us got the shot, completely changed their lives. And so what we did with our nonprofit is take a real focus of it and make it about this procedure specifically, because we saw over across the whole country, the people that we treated, the change in their lives was just remarkable. And I will give you a quote from one of the people who got treated. This person said to me, I'm not afraid to die anymore. And I begged that person to give me 1 week. And he got the shot. And the next day I got a text saying, cannot thank you enough. My kids love me again. So I will tell you that this is a miraculous procedure. It has changed the arc of the lives of so many people that have come across Rags of Honor. And I can't thank Dr. Eugene Lipov and his team enough for what they do every day to get up and just be the tip of the spear for this procedure. So keep it up, Doc.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, buddy.
You got it, man.
Is it possible I could jump in really quick? I'd just like to say something too, if possible. And I'm sorry, but I couldn't sit here without mentioning it, and I deeply, deeply apologize, Mr. Doyle. I didn't even see that you were on the screen when I originally jumped in. But I have to give it to Mr. Mark Doyle as well. I had conversations with him, and he was part of that trifecta with Melinda and Dr. Lipov. And I'm getting chills just because that's the story you had told me too, sir, and made me say that I have to be a part of this. And I could not go a second longer without making sure everyone knows that you guys are the trifecta behind this. And I can't thank you enough for just letting me be a part of it and asking me to help. So I had to make sure I gave you kudos too, sir. I apologize. I didn't know you were on this. But you're an amazing person, and the things that Melinda had said about you, and actually Dr. Lipov said about you, your life's work is amazing, sir. And just thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you,
That's
brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm honored to be a part of it, really.